Hilchos Hatumos Perek Shvi, the laws of the remaining primary sources of impurity, chapter 7. Today, starting today really, we're moving on to a new section of these laws to talk about many of the rabbinic decrees involved in the laws of purity and impurity. Today's topic is going to be the tumah of food and drinks. And there's going to be really a whole set of laws called the tumah of food, but that's going to be more about how food becomes tameh. Today he's going to guide us on general principles on the levels to which food can become tameh. So this chart or this list is going to be really, really helpful to always remember the progression of impurity. The corpse, which is the highest form of impurity, Avos Hatumos. Then you have a classic Av Hatumos, primary source of impurity. Then you have Vlad, lower degrees, which are divided into a maximum of 4 degrees, which we're going to cover all today. So, first thing is that Rambam gives us the background to define what's the biblical level of impurity that food and drink can reach, and then he tells us the rabbinic level that food and drink can reach in terms of impurity. Halacha Aleph, Davar Mefurish B'Torah. It's explicit in the Torah, Sheha'oichlin v'hamashkin mitamin, that food and drink can become impure. That's not a question. Food and drink can become impure. It's a biblical concept. Shenemar, it says over here in the pasuk, Mikol ha'oichel, asher ye'ochel, any food that's edible, that's eaten, asher yovayel of mayim, once water comes into contact with it, water means any of the 7 halachic liquids, yitma, it can become impure. V'chol mashke, asher yishase b'chol kli, and any liquid which is drunk in any utensil, yitma, could also become impure. So that's without a doubt. Food and drink can become impure. However, biblically speaking, once food becomes impure, it doesn't have the power biblically to transfer its impurity to other foods. Nor liquid, which becomes impure, also cannot impose its impurity on anything else biblically. So if we look at it in this chart here, what do we see? Biblically, this is min ha-Torah. Let's say you have an Av Hatumos, primary source of impurity, which is a nevela. We'll just use a carcass for purposes of our illustration. So we said that an Av Hatumos, once it touches something, that becomes a rishon. Once that touches something else, it becomes a sheni. But look what happens. If a nevela touches food or drink directly, at this point it's done. It cannot go any further. Even if it touches other things, they're going to be pure. Let's say the nevela touched utensils or a person. So then they became the rishon. A rishon can still make food or drink impure. Once they'll touch food or drink, that food or drink will become a sheni. But that's the maximum. Biblically, food or drink, basically what you see over here, can never get past sheni level. It's impossible. Come the rabbis and said, no. But rabbinically, they divided it. Let's check it out over here. We'll look at food separately and drinks separately, liquid separately, okay? Starting with food. Gazru al ha'oichel hatameh. The rabbis made a decree on impure food. She'im naga ba'oichel acher shetim ahu. That if that food then goes ahead and touches other foods, it will make it impure. So here we have again, the Av Hatumos is the nevela. The nevela touched food, just food, no drinks here. The food became a rishon. Now if the food touches other food, here's the food will become a sheni. V'cheinim naga ha'oichel hatameh b'mashkin. So too if the food will touch liquid, tim'an, it will make the liquid impure. So these are both now novelties. However, ve'ein oichel metameh kli shenaga boi le'olam. But never can food transfer its impurity to a utensil. This square here should have been green to show the impossibility of making kelim impure. Even rabbinically. Rabbinically, the food can transfer to food and drink, but not to utensils. By the way, maybe I should have brought it out a little even better, that even in this case, where let's say the food was a sheni, right? Nevela touches utensils, which touched food, the food becomes impure biblically. At this point, even if the food will touch other food and drink, it will become impure even more. Because the point is basically food, at least, okay? Food has the power to transfer one more level than it's given permission biblically. Okay. V'chein gazru al hamashkin hatmein. Then came the rabbis and said, that's as far as food goes. As far as liquid goes, they also have the power, sheyetamu oichel oy mashkin, to transfer their impurity to food or drink. But liquid is even more powerful than food. Oy kelim shenagu bahen. Liquid does make utensils impure if it touches it. Halacha beis, the Rambam restates this in other words. Ein lechavlad tuma shemetame kelim ela mashkin tmein bilvat. You have no scenario where there's a vlad hatuma. That means anything past an av. Nothing past an av will make any utensils impure except for impure liquids. That was the rabbi's new imposition here. The tuma zum midivreim. This is a rabbinic tuma. V'hu, says the Rambam, this is provided sheyiyu oisan hamashkin tmein machmas av me'avois hatumas. The power that the rabbis gave for liquids to make utensils impure is only if the liquids are up here, only if they're a rishon, only if they've received impurity directly from an av hatuma, bein shal teira, bein shal divrei, whether it's a biblical or a rabbinic av. So this side is exact. The impurity that liquid can pass on is only if it is a rishon. Why? Why did the rabbis make this decree on liquids that they can transfer impurity to foods, to utensils? Because there's another type of liquid which has biblical power to make you impure, which is the liquids or the bodily fluids of a zav. Shehu av or metame kelim din teira. It's considered a primary source of impurity, and it transmits impurity to utensils by biblical law. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, v'chiyarek hazav bataher. If a zav will spit on somebody who is pure, the person will become impure, as we explained. Therefore, just to make liquids equal all across the board, the rabbi said, you know what? Any liquids, if they become impure from an av, they're going to be able to make kelim impure. Halacha gimel, a very important caveat. When the rabbis decreed that liquids could make utensils impure, they made a decree that they have to only transmit impurity through their inside. What does that mean, Ketzat? If the liquids fall into the airspace of a pottery utensil, the whole utensil becomes impure. V'harehu sheni, being a sheni, because the liquid always has to be a rishon. Same if they touched any other utensil from their inside, they will become impure and be on a sheni level. So the Rambam notice makes a difference between pottery and other utensils, that pottery just has entered the airspace. That's the way pottery becomes impure. Other utensils, they have to be touched directly, but on the inside. But if the liquids were only touched the outside of a utensil which has an inside, whether it's pottery or metal or other immersible materials, only the outside becomes impure. The back, the outside is a sheni level, but the inside is not impure at all. Says that Rambam, when do we say this? That touching the back doesn't affect the inside, litruma, as far as truma is concerned. And with regards to truma, you can put truma inside the utensil if the outside has been touched. But for sacrificial meat, once the outside of a utensil becomes impure, the entirety is considered to be impure. It's all considered sheni with regards to sacrificial meat, which means that if impure liquids touch the outside of a utensil, you wouldn't put sacrificial meat inside of it. We've already explained in the beginning of this chapter that food, even by rabbinic law, cannot transfer impurity to utensils, while liquid could. So if liquids are anyways able to make utensils impure, so why make this difference? Why when it came to liquid impurity, did they make this heker, this recognition? And they said that if a utensil only had liquid touch the outside, then the inside didn't become impure for truma. Why make that difference? Just go across the board. So that Rambam says, Lo haidia. The rabbis wanted you to know, Shatumas kelim elu midivreim, that the whole impurity here is only rabbinic. So nobody should burn over it truma and sacrificial meat. So whenever you make a little weird tweak in what should be the typical approach to impurity, people would always know, oh, this is different. This is not as strict as, let's say, a biblical type of impurity. Halacha hey. Now let's get into a little more detail here. Kvar be'arnu. We already explained, and this we really explained yesterday already. Sheha'oichlin v'hamashkin shenagu be'av me'avos hatumos hareihin rishon l'tuma. That if food or drink touched directly a primary source of impurity, they become a rishon. Right? Following this chain of events, or this hierarchy here. Av, rishon, sheni, shlishi, revi. So it follows that if you have food or drink which directly touched an av hatuma, here's the av, they touched the av, they will become a rishon. V'cheinim naga oichel ba'adam oy bekli shenitma ba'av. You know what? Let's use this chart better here. Okay, here's the av hatuma. It touched food, rishon. If the food touched a person or a utensil which became impure through the av, so here's the person or the utensil that became impure through the av, food will touch this, either the person or the utensil, they will be sheni l'tuma. That food becomes what's called a sheni. If food then touches a sheni, it becomes a shlishi, third level. And if the third degree touches another degree, this is called fourth degree impurity, and they all have different ramifications. Says the Rambam, all this is only said when it comes to food. That means that this hierarchy of getting lower and lower and further distant from impurity only applies to food. Aval hamashkin, but when it comes to liquid, a very interesting thing happens. Echad mashke shenaga be'avatuma, oy shenaga be'rishon, oy shenaga be'sheni. It doesn't matter whether the liquids touched an avatuma directly, or they touched a rishon, which means a utensil which touched, let's say, the avatuma, or they touched a sheni. Right? There was a nevela, person, food, and then came the liquid. Hare oisei mashke tchila letuma. Okay, he missed out something very important in these pictures here. You were supposed to see an arrow going back from these liquids up to the top. It's a funny thing. The hierarchy stops. Once liquid is involved, the liquid reverts back to being a rishon.
So
no matter how far with liquid. No, exactly. Says the liquid will keep on making the next liquid impure and the next liquid impure. Even if it's 100. Stays rishon. She'ein meinin b'mashkin, we don't count when it comes to liquid. Now, obviously, that means no food came in the middle, right? Because then, in other words, the food will become further and further degrees. But liquid will always come back to being a rishon. Ketzad, what does this mean? Let's just visualize it. Yayin shenaga ba'avatuma oy b'rishon oy b'sheni. Wine, which may have touched either the nevela directly, or a rishon, the utensils, or a sheni, this food. Hare yayin zeh kirishon l'tuma. The wine becomes like first degree impurity. Then a whole hierarchy. The wine touches oil, oil touches milk, milk touches honey, honey touches water, water touches new wine. Even if it goes forever and ever, they're all back to being a rishon. The way we look at it is as if they all touched an av directly. And therefore, like impure liquids, right? What do we say with the liquids in the beginning? The power of liquids is that it could even transfer impurity to utensils. So any liquid at any point will become impure, will become impure enough to be able to transmit impurity to utensils. The truth is, this concept of the everlasting conveyor belt of impurity also applies if it's not only liquid, but even if a utensil which was touched by liquid is involved. So you have a utensil whose back outside became impure through liquid. Other liquids now touched the outside of this utensil, which is impure from the first liquids. Even if it was totally unholy liquid, that liquid reverts back to being first degree impurity. And they will, if they touch utensils, make them impure at a sheni level. Needless to say, they can make other foods or drinks also impure. That's the special rule of liquids. According to Kabbalah, the Rebbe once explained why is liquid so strict? Because liquid, more than food, shows on attachment. Liquid causes things to stick. And essentially, the whole idea of impurity What's impurity? Impurity means negative forces that are trying to catch energy. Negative forces are dead by default. How do they stay alive? Because they leach. Yeah, they need food to live, so they leach off the powers of purity. So liquid is much more susceptible to that because by nature, it's about connection. It's about creating attachment. So therefore, it has much more power on the impurity level. It's gewaldig. That's why all these things, across the board, where's there extra chumrah when it comes to liquid?
It's more dangerous.
It's more exactly. It's more susceptible to the powers of impurity. There you go. Halacha vav, a back of a utensil, outside of a utensil, becomes impure from liquids. The nagu eichlin ba'acheri akli atame, comes food and touches the back of that utensil. Afilu achle truma, even if it's truma food, hare elu tohire, they're pure because it's not drinks, it's food. Food cannot become impure from that level. If a utensil only became impure and it's outside, it cannot make foods impure only with regards to sacrificial meat. Because the utensil which is impure on the outside is considered fully impure for sacrificial meat, as we just explained before. Therefore, it will make foods of sacrificial meat also impure, but that's it. Anything lower than kaidesh, even truma, is not going to be affected by the outside of a utensil, only liquids. Once liquids are affected, they keep on going back to the level of rishon, as is going to come up again and again. And with that, we finish the first chapter on rabbinic enactments of impurity.